The interior of the cottage, of the museum, is the heart of the building, and it's an indication of what rural living would have been in Ireland at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. The kitchen table here, all of which were made of pine, was the focal point where people gathered for the meals and for discussions, morning, noon and night. You'll notice some of the utilities here that were used. The crock jugs. There was always a supply of crock jugs to use the milk before it was separated for the making of cream and butter. The iron kettle, always on the go to ensure that there was hot water the whole time if people wished to use it for tea or for washing up. Butter pats, all of these things, and the oil lamp, which were part of rural living. Here on my left is the fireplace. Now, we have had to cheat a little bit here in this, in that we have an inserted stove for health and safety reasons. But you can see the upper part of the fireplace there has the traditional crane. That one, in fact, with a bird's beak, a crane's beak on the end of it just for decoration, where the cooking was all done, and the kettle, the black iron kettle, hung 24 hours a day over the turf fire. The turf fire was always kept lighting. In fact, in famine days, it was said that the last thing to go in any house was the fire. And indeed, when people built a new house, the tradition was that they would carry part of the turf fire to the new building for the continuity of life. Fire was seen as the life of the cottage. You'll notice in this cottage, as in most cottages, the depth of the walls, the thickness of the walls, nearly 2.5 feet in thickness, which gave great insulation and heat. Here is a settle bed, sometimes called the Galteach. Galteach being the old woman, who was the old woman of the house, maybe a mother or a mother-in-law living with the young family. It was also used by visitors, or sometimes by the children of the house, and it folded out to form a bed, which was very snug and very comfortable because it was right beside the fire. So in the pre-central heating days, you had a very warm place here in the settle bed. Here on the windowsill, we have the crock jars. These crock jars were beloved in households. They were for the storing of spirits, very often illicit poitín or other spirits. I knew some places where they used them for keeping sheep dip and chemicals like that. So it wouldn't be a good idea to drink from them without being sure what was in them. Here we have shoemaker's lasts, because the shoemaker's last was used in most houses. The man of the house fixed the shoes. He put studs on the heels of the shoes and sometimes even did full leather soles on the shoes rather than go to the cobblers to do it. If the kitchen was the heart of the house, the bedroom played a very important part as well. The bed was the place of birth, living, and very often death. So most people would associate the bedroom with very important things in life. One important little aspect of living without sanitation was the use of the jerry, the poe, or the chamber pot, if you want to be more precise. And I think this one shows a certain tendency towards better off people because it's endowed with a lid. How's about that for grandeur? And also here in the room we have the pitcher and ewer. Again, it's an indication of a house that didn't have running water, where the guest in the house had a pitcher of water and a basin in which to wash in the morning. Another nicety was the hot water jar. Literally a jar, a crock jar, which was filled with boiling water and placed into the bed. One had to be very careful of this because it could burn quite easily. A child would be very easily burnt because of the heat that generated with boiling water in it. They were used, but in more humbler abodes, if there was a hot water bottle supplied at all, it would be an ordinary bottle with some warm water in it just to heat the bed. Some places, of course, had a warming pan, which was a much grander item, generally copper, with a long handle in which cinders were put, and it was put into the bed to heat it. These are all the niceties of life which weren't always found in the more humbler cottages. I think it's important to point out also that all of the artefacts in this museum have been donated by the people of the parish, which makes it very important and which makes it very poignant to some of the people who will come here to visit the museum and see relics of their own childhood, of their own parents in use in a museum setting.